As you all know, we have been closely following the grassroots labor movement that has really swept the country. You've got Starbucks workers, you've got Amazon workers. Actually, there's a big Amazon union election, I think, this weekend. You've got REI workers. And you also have a first-of-its-kind union at Chipotle. So we're very excited to bring on two of the workers who are behind that first union effort at a Chipotle in Michigan. We have Atulia, Dora Lasky, and Harper McNamara. Welcome. Great to have you both.
Thanks for joining the show.
Hi, thanks for having us on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and put this tear sheet up on the screen. Our friend Jonah Furman over at Labor Notes wrote up what you all have been up to. The headline here is How Zoomers Organized the First Chipotle Union. You all formed the fast food chain's first recognized union in the U.S., voting 11-3 on August 25th to join Teamsters Local 243. Atulia, let me start with you. What made you all decide that you wanted to unionize? What was sort of the inspiration for this project?
Well, it's kind of the classic issues that happen in any workplace. We were being underscheduled pretty severely at work. We were being paid quite poorly for the work we do. And then we felt like that we didn't really have enough control over our working conditions or workplace. So classic reasons, but you'll find that they're applicable in any workplace. And they're definitely applicable at Chipotle, as we found as we worked there the longer. And so that's when we decided that, we needed to fix these issues. And a couple of us went, individually to try to get these issues fixed. But we realized that there was no reason for Chipotle to listen to us if we were just coming to them individually, hat in hand, because they could just either ignore us or in one situation, fire a worker the day they asked for a raise, the day after they asked for a raise. And so after that point, certainly we realized that the only power workers really have is collectively. And that's when we started talking about forming a union.
Interesting. So Harper, you mentioned in this piece with Jonah Furman, you've actually worked there for 2 years. Jonah points out that the average Chipotle worker stays only 4 months. Was that a challenge for you guys when you're doing your organization? And how are you thinking about that as you look forward?
So the turnover of our store was like something we were kind of constantly having to account for. There were different points where we would like build the percentage of the crew up pretty high and then work from there with that in mind, and then kind of fall behind on making sure that percentage stayed high with the turnover. But really just like constantly talking to people and having other people talk to people creates the movement.
Got it.
We found that once you get in the swing of things, you usually are recruiting faster than people are leaving. So we would recruit 2 people and then one person would leave.
Yeah, that's normally how it went.
And Atulia, you talked about a sort of radicalizing event where the owner of this particular Chipotle was trying to go for this like special status with corporate, this designation of restaurateur, and really, was working things to make that happen, and eventually accomplishes this, brings all of you out for a photo op with a cake that they then proceeded to eat and sent you all to the back. Talk about how that particular incident and indignity factored into your decision-making here.
Yeah, so a bunch of us had been organizing at that point, but in a way that moment was really useful because a lot of the crew members got to see what corporate kind of really thought about them in that moment. We kind of considered it not even a let them eat cake moment. It was a very simple moment where, they brought us all together, like you said, to take a picture in front of a cake, but they didn't even really buy a second cake. And I mean, this is just like a pro tip. If you want to keep your workers less agitated, maybe buy the second sheet cake. I don't know.
Right. Probably would have been a worthwhile investment for them in hindsight. Hindsight's 2020 though. And Harper, obviously, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So during that moment, all the crew members got sent back away from the managers to wash their hands. And famously, one crew member who hadn't really been talked to about the union stuff went. They had this R balloon for restaurateur, and she went, "Oh, I thought the R was going to be for raise." And of course, that made the union discussions a lot easier after that.
Harper, were you all inspired at all by the example of like the Starbucks workers, the REI workers, the Amazon workers? We've been following all of these things here really closely. Did that factor into this whatsoever?
Yeah, for sure. So when we were initially talking about everything, there was a group of us that was like, this could actually work, looking at the Starbucks stuff. But this was also at a point when there hadn't been any Starbucks elections yet. So it was really like the start of that movement. We were seeing that, and then we were seeing like our own store and being like, well, if it's possible to like create a movement there, then we can leverage those same factors here.
And now you all have joined up with Teamsters Local 243. I know Teamsters International has new leadership in charge. They have positioned themselves to be a lot more aggressive, a lot more interested in organizing new shops, a lot more sort of militant. What were the factors, Atulia, that led you to join up with the Teamsters as opposed to going the route that, say, Amazon went and forming their own company-specific union?
Yeah, so we really felt that we did need quite a bit of legal support and organizing support from people who did have union organizing experience. We were lucky enough to get recommended labor notes and get help from our local DSA chapter, but none of us had really had union organizing experience before. So we decided that it was probably better to get a more seasoned and like militant and dedicated union organizer on board. And so we all voted as in the general meeting with all the union membership. We voted on what union to go with, and we ended up voting overwhelmingly with the Teamsters. We can't speak to TDU too much specifically, but what we did find really fascinating about the Teamsters is how much of a democracy they really were, to the point where you could have like a reformist party run within Teamsters and then win and then kind of implement their reform agenda.
Yeah, all those things really matter. And Harper, what is next? Have you had other Chipotles across the country reach out? Because one of the things Jonah points out in his labor notes piece here is that the structure of Chipotle is kind of similar to Starbucks in that you have a lot of corporate-owned stores. That's not the case with a lot of fast food franchise where you have, you know, the franchisees, and that can make things a little bit more difficult. So have you had other Chipotle workers in other cities across the country reach out and say, hey, we want to do this too?
So, so Chipotle is not franchise, which does make it a lot easier to like spread as a movement. And we are excited to work with like a lot more stores and like turn it into a very powerful union.
Cool.
Yeah, so right now, if we can talk about this, we are working with EWOC, the Emergency Worker Organizing Committee. And so if you are at a Chipotle that you think could be improved or maybe isn't going so well, and if you would like help or support or advice talking to your coworkers, you can go to workerorganizing.org/support/Chipotle-workers and sign up there. And then
we'll put a link in the description for you. I think it'll be easier.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank you.
But absolutely, if there are Chipotle workers out there who are interested in following this path, definitely go check out that link, and Atulia and Harper can help you with advice on what they learned throughout this process. Both of you, please keep in touch. It's great to have you on the show, and I know it takes a lot of courage to kind of band together and unionize, especially the first one in the country. But here's hoping it starts the same sort of firestorm that the Starbucks workers were able to ignite.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, our pleasure.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Man, I love talking to those guys.
I know. It really warms my heart.
It's like expert or people actually in the field, living their lives, just trying to, not get treated. Can you imagine that cake situation?
Oh my God.
I don't know what I would do. I honestly,
have them all out for a photo op, and then you all go to the back. We're gonna eat this cake.
I'd probably quit. But if you need the money and you're just sitting there boiling in rage, man, that
Well, one of the things that's interesting is that Atulia said in that article is there was another Chipotle that voted to unionize, they just shut it down. And so they were having to speak with their coworkers about like, well, what if that happens? And initially they were like, we don't think they do that. And they were trying to come up with the reasons why they didn't think Chipotle would close this store. But then they were like, actually, the more effective and more accurate messaging was like, if you lose this job, is it the end of the world? Because, and that's where the tight labor market comes in, because they're like, hey, we could go to Qdoba and get 14 bucks an hour and basically make what you're making here a little bit more. So that also helped to, make this all possible. So it's important then in context of what we talk about with the Fed and the overall economy, that we understand this is partly, bolstered and enabled, and their courage is not to be understated here, but bolstered and enabled by the unique economic circumstances we have right now here too. So
that cake thing is going to stick with me for a little
yeah, it's really something.
I
really
truly
something.
can't imagine it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your support so that we can highlight stories like theirs, put it out there. I mean, a lot more people are going to listen to that, possibly even Chipotle workers, knowing the demographics of our audience. So anyway, it means a lot that you support our work, our expansion. As said, though, we got the Counterpoints discount. It's going to be for the last week. And for those of you who want to add more to your membership, you're more than welcome to. You can adjust it now on the website.
We're not going to stop you.
Thank you, Supercast, for building that technology. Seriously, they are such an amazing company. We love working with them. And then Chicago, come see us in Chicago. I promise you, it's going to be a fantastic time, and we will have a great show for you, friends, family, and anyone else that you choose to bring. We promise to keep it all lighthearted. If the world is going to end, we might as well all end together.
Might as well enjoy ourselves together before that happens.
We'll have a good segment tomorrow, and then we'll have a show for you on Thursday, and then, of course, Counterpoints on Friday. Only one day off for Breaking Points. Look at that. It's amazing.
Filling up that calendar.
We'll see you guys later.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.